Since you guys seem to really like this gallery series on various nations' flying aces of the Second World War, here is another one for you. By popular demand, and by that I mean I really wanted to do it because I did not know anything about them, here is Belgian flying aces. I'm Indy Neidell, and this is a World War II gallery special. Today, looking at some of the 14 Belgian flying aces of World War II. As before, this is by no means supposed to be complete coverage. It is an intro to these gentlemen, and you are encouraged to do further research to learn more about them. I'm going to start today with Remy Vanlier. I chose him because there are two quite interesting things about his flying career that I wanted to share, and I'll get to them in a couple minutes. He was born in 1915. He entered what was the predecessor of the modern Belgian Air Force in 1935, but was not a pilot, he was an observer. He did eventually begin his pilot training in 1937, receiving his first assignment the following year with the 3rd Squadron of the 1st Aviation Regiment. The Belgian Army Air Force was founded back already in 1909, and by World War I was called Aviation Militaire Belge. When the Germans invaded in force in 1940, there were 3 active Belgian Air Force regiments. Remy made recon flights during the invasion in an old Fairey Fox biplane. Belgium had produced its own recon plane, the Renard R-31, in the mid-1930s, and the 32 of them built for the Belgian Army Air Force are the only operational World War II military planes entirely designed and built in Belgium. Other than those, they used British Hurricanes, Gloucester Gladiators, Fairey Foxes, Fireflies and Battles, and even some Italian Fiat Falcos. It almost goes without saying that the small and outdated Belgian Army Air Force was quickly and badly mauled by the Luftwaffe. As for Remy Vanlier, he was shot down May 16th, less than a week after the invasion began in force, was wounded and taken prisoner. Belgium surrendered to the Germans the 28th, the German occupation of the country began. Remy managed to leave the continent, though, after recovering by making his way through occupied France to neutral Spain's border. Ironically, it was here that he was arrested for illegally crossing the border. He spent time in several Spanish prisons, but managed to escape and make his way to Britain, arriving in July 1941. Now, that November, the 350 Squadron was created as part of the Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve, the 349 Squadron soon after. These were Belgian units flying for the British Royal Air Force and would be transferred to the Belgian Air Force in 1946. Vanlier did not serve with these, though, but with 609 Squadron, which was formed before the war, but which by 1942, included pilots from a variety of nations. He notched his first victory flying a Hawker Typhoon January 20th, 1943, a Messerschmitt Bf-109 that was raiding the south coast. By November 30th, he had claimed 6 planes in the air and destroyed 1 on the ground. These were the last planes he shot down. But here's where I get to the first quite interesting thing about Vanlier's career beyond his earlier aerial adventures. He left the squadron and in August 1944, flying the Hawker Tempest Mark V, took command of 164 Squadron just when the Allies were really starting to break out after the Normandy landings in June. His job here was fighting against the German B-1 flying bomb offensive. This offensive was directed at Britain between June and October, and over 9,000 of these basically cruise missiles were fired at Britain until the last launching site within range was overrun. During this time, Remy Vanlier either destroyed or shot down 44 of them solo and got another 9 shared credit destructions. That is actually the second highest total of any pilot, trailing only British aviator Joseph Barry's 59. I think that is a pretty cool trivium. Post-war, he was given command of 350 Squadron, and then served various posts within the Belgian Air Force in the 1940s and 1950s. In 1954, he became Deputy Chief of Staff to the Defense Minister. In 1959 happened the second thing I wanted to mention, which may or may not be true. You can look this up. There are a few sources out there, and I found a Discover magazine article from last year that goes over the story pretty well. Vanlier was in the Belgian Congo flying a helicopter patrol over the Katanga region when he and his co-pilot spotted a snake that looked to be 50 feet long. That is over 15 meters, which is more than twice the length of the reticulated python, the longest snake on Earth. Green anacondas are a bit shorter than those. In a 1980 episode of Arthur C. Clarke's TV show Mysterious World, Vanlier said that when they made a second pass to get a better look, the snake reared up its head some 10 feet into the air, like 3 meters. In the interview, he was quoted as saying, "I felt if I got any closer, it would have struck at me. It could have easily eaten a man." Vanlier estimated that the beast's head was 2 feet wide, enough to comfortably make lunch out of current snake heavyweights. But okay, how do you substantiate such a claim? Well, you take a photograph. However, taking a crisp photo from a moving helicopter in 1959 was easier said than done. So this is what they got. The fuzzy photo shows a snake that looks gigantic compared to the trees nearby. Or are they just bushes or grass? And there are a lot of giant termite mounds in the area, because if the dark patches at the left are in fact termite mounds, well, the ambiguous picture excited some appraisers at the time. Ivan Sanderson, a biologist and cryptozoology enthusiast, analyzed the document and came to a striking conclusion. The snake was not merely 50 feet long, but 200. In his eyes, the dark shapes were certainly termite mounds, which could grow up to 26 feet tall and over 50 feet wide in the Katanga region. Reuters released a report in 2023 that herpetologists, who study reptiles and amphibians, do not believe such a giant snake as Vanlier saw is alive today. Although, in fairness, there have been snakes that were almost 50 feet long back in the Eocene epoch like 40 million years ago. So, long post-dinosaur. As for Remy Vanlier, the Belgian Congo got independence in 1960, so he went back to Belgium, retiring in 1968 and passing away in 1990. The things you learn when you focus on Belgium. Let's have a look at today's next Belgian ace, Jean Offenberg. He was born in 1916 and trained at the Aviation Militaire Belge as a fighter pilot. He flew Fairey Fireflies with the 4th Squadron of the 2nd Regiment. Early in 1940, though, his squadron replaced them with those Italian Fiat CR-42 Falcos. This was before the German invasion began. When it got going, Offenberg got his first victory straight off, shooting down a Dornier bomber. When Belgium surrendered, Offenberg and some of his cohorts just flew their planes to France and offered their services to the French. The French said, "Sure, why don't you guys go and defend the airfield at Chartres?" This they did, but not for long, since France signed an armistice June 22nd, 8 days after the fall of Paris. Offenberg could read the writing on the wall, and on the 20th, he and Alexis Jollard, who never became an ace, took 2 French Cauldron Semoun planes and took off for Corsica and then Algeria. From there, they went to Casablanca and featured prominently in the film. No, they didn't. But there, they and some other Belgian and Polish pilots managed to get aboard a cargo ship going to British Gibraltar, and from there they got on a ship to Britain, arriving July 16th, less than a month after leaving France. Offenberg joined the RAF right away and was soon flying Hawker Hurricanes with 145 Squadron. And by November, he was shooting down German planes. In January 1941, the squadron got Spitfires and was designated to be part of Fighter Command's circus operations. Okay, these were offensives with like 20 or 30 bombers or more that were defended by 10 or even 15 squadrons of fighters. Just a huge mass of planes, right? A mass the Luftwaffe couldn't really ignore. These operations began in January 1941, and Offenberg's squadron joined them on March the 5th. Over the next 3 months, Offenberg scored a couple more kills, and then became the first Belgian pilot flying with the RAF to be awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross. He joined 609 Squadron in June, and according to Norman Frank's Fighter Command's Air War 1941, once destroyed a Messerschmitt Bf-109 without firing a shot, and without ramming it either. Apparently, he was in a near vertical dive with one of them, and he pulled out, and the German plane couldn't and crashed into the sea. He was involved in several more combat claims, and in September was awarded the Belgian Croix de Guerre. In November, the squadron was relocated to the British Midlands for a period of training exercises, and on January 22nd, 1942, Offenberg was leading a fairly low-level flight training session, and another pilot in a simulated dogfight woefully misjudged the distances and crashed into the rear of Offenberg's plane, causing it to spin out and crash into the ground. Offenberg was killed in the crash. His tally is a bit odd. He's credited with 5 solo kills and 2 shared ones, but also probably destroying another 5 German planes and 7 more planes damaged, either solo or shared. I do not have a biology-related story to share about Jean Offenberg. Nor do I have one about Jacques Philippart. His claim to fame is that he was the first Belgian flying ace of the Second World War. Now, Philippart was already 30 when the war began, born January 11, 1909. He abandoned his university studies after just 2 years to join the military aviation in 1932. He was known fairly quickly as an outstanding pilot, got his commission in June 1936, and in 1937 represented Belgium at an international air meet in Zurich, finishing second. He was part of King Leopold's escort to Princess Beatrice's baptism in the Netherlands, and when they had Belgian national holidays in 1938 and 1939, guess who performed aerobatics in the Belgian skies? Jacques Philippart. So he was already established and pretty well known as a top pilot before the war began. And when it did, already in October 1939, he went to study British RAF operating procedures to bring back home. When the Germans invaded Belgium the following May, he was back in Belgium, and he did fly some sorties, but was withdrawn to France, and then upon the French surrender, caught a Dutch ship from Bayonne to Plymouth, England, June 23rd, with some other airmen. Like some other Belgian pilots, he joined the RAF Volunteer Reserve, training on Hawker Hurricanes and joining 213 Squadron at Exeter, July 23rd, just 2 weeks after starting RAF operational training. Unlike some other Belgian pilots, he was shooting down German planes right from the start. On August 11th, he shot down a Junkers Ju-88. On the 15th, destroyed 3 Messerschmitt Me-109s, and probably also an Me-110, but on the 22nd, confirmed another Ju-88, making him Belgium's first World War II flying ace. He shot down another Ju-88 on the 25th, but he himself was shot down. His plane crashed into the sea near Portland, and Philippart bailed out, but he did not survive the incident, and his body was washed ashore a few days later. So he was also the first Belgian flying ace of World War II to meet his fate. He was 31 years old. He was buried in Exeter Cemetery, but in 1949 was exhumed and reburied in Brussels. He was posthumously awarded the Belgian Croix de Guerre and the Cross of the Order of Leopold with palm. If we're not counting flying bombs, then my final Belgian ace today was the most successful one of the war, shooting down 8 planes. Yvan du Monceau de Bergendal. Sorry, Count Yvan du Monceau de Bergendal. He was actually born in England, not in Belgium. His parents, they were Belgian, but they had relocated there during World War I. And he was born in Fulham in London. He entered the Belgian Royal Military Academy in 1936 and was admitted to the military aviation in December 1937. In July 1939, he's attached to the 1st Observation Squadron to get his observer certificate. On January 3rd, 1940, he is admitted as a student aviator at the flying school at Belgium, flying the Avro 504N. Those planes were pretty old, but you gotta learn somehow, right? In early May, after getting his pilot's license, he goes for advanced pilot training at Tienen. He gets there literally days before the German invasion, and that's where he is when they bomb the airfield at May the 10th at dawn. He and the other pilots there are sent first to Tours in France, and then to Oujda in French North Africa, on the border between Morocco and Algeria. Very much surprised by the French capitulation a few weeks later, they too make their way to England, and Count du Monceau de Bergendal joins the RAF Voluntary Reserve July 20th. He is first assigned training in Bomber Command, but in February 1941 changes to fighters. He too joins 609 Squadron on April 10th, flying the Spitfire Mark 5B, and on August 18th, shoots down his first enemy plane, a Bf-109, near Dover. In May 1942, with 4 victories to his name, he is assigned to 350 Squadron, and he becomes an ace on June 1st, when he shoots down a Focke-Wulf FW-190 over Belgium. During the Dieppe raid, he shoots down another FW-190, One of 23 of that model the Luftwaffe loses that day, of a total of 48 planes they lose. The RAF loses 106 though. Tough day. The Count's final aerial victory was in December. In 1943, he took over command of the Belgian 349 Squadron. Then in July 1944, he took up a post with the Belgian Air Inspectorate, going to Ottawa, Canada the next month to inspect the Belgian pilots training there. In October, he's posted to the Command and General Staff School in the US, and he finishes out the war post-Belgian liberation as Deputy of the Inspectorate. Post-war, he is a military attaché at the Belgian Embassy in Washington for a while. And then back in Belgium, he remains in military aviation, holding ever higher posts until he becomes commanding officer of the Tactical Air Force in 1965. He retires in 1972 and leaves this earth in 1984. I should say that different sources list him with 7 or 8 confirmed victories, and he also has several unconfirmed victories to his name. And with that, my friends, I will leave you for today. But we now know a bit more about some Belgian heroes of the skies and a possible giant snake. I am enjoying this gallery series so far, so I will do at least one more of them soon before perhaps moving on to other subject matter. Let me know who you guys want me to cover if you have a preference. And since you guys also enjoy all this, please join the Time Ghost Army at timeghost.tv or patreon.com so I can continue to do this. It is that simple. Do not forget to subscribe. See you next time.